From Kathy Griffin to Robert Downey Jr., there seems to be a mixed bag of people speaking up for and against comedians. I'm Melissa Milotti, your host, and here are your top 10 celebrities speaking out for or against comedians. In our number 10 spot today, we have Al Pacino. Al Pacino, the very famous, iconic actor, attended the Golden Globes in 2020 when Ricky Gervais made his very well-known intro speech calling out all of Hollywood. Ricky made a joke about Al, and he took it fairly well. Later on, he went on to comment on Ricky's performance, and he was quoted as saying, "When you're a comic like that, in that kind of environment, you sort of can't censor yourself." Ricky has definitely experienced a lot of backlash in the last few years, and it really seems that people either love him or hate his comedy style. Coming up at our number 9 spot, we have someone who has a different perspective on Ricky Gervais and arguably hates his comedy style, Robert Downey Jr. Okay, hate may be a strong word, but he certainly was not impressed with Ricky after Ricky made a joke at the Golden Globes in 2020 about Robert being known for being in such facilities as the Betty Ford Clinic, a substance abuse clinic, and the Los Angeles County Jail. Robert came out onto the stage and responded by saying, "Aside from the fact that he's been hugely mean-spirited with mildly sinister undertones, I'd say the vibe of the show is pretty good so far, wouldn't you?" Robert then later continued to comment by saying, "I think it's great to be funny, but it's better if you can do it without hurting people." Fair. And it's possible that perhaps Ricky did intend to hurt Robert in that joke, and one could argue that clearly his intention isn't to be nice. But then it could also just be a habitual way of joke telling that we've seen him do for decades. So, who knows? In our number 8 spot, we have Whitney Cummings. Known for being a comedian herself, Whitney took to Twitter to stick up for comedian and podcast host Joe Rogan after he was accused of promoting misinformation and providing a platform for people with a different opinion than what is publicly accepted, aka people with controversial opinions, on his podcast. Whitney tweeted, "Don't look to why so many people trust Joe Rogan. Look to why so many people trust the mainstream media." She went on to say, "Comedians did not sign up to be your hero. It's our job to be irrelevant and dangerous, to question authority, and take you through a spooky mental haunted house so you can arrive at your own conclusions. Stay focused on the people we pay taxes to be moral leaders." Whitney was also quick to defend comedian Ricky Gervais on Twitter after the Golden Globes in 2020, saying, "For anyone who wants to call Ricky Gervais mean, he's done more for animal welfare than most celebrities combined." I like that she's a fighter for all comedians. It shows that she knows that part of the job is to be controversial, and if she doesn't stick up for all comedians, then someday she might experience the backlash herself of something she never intended to mean. In our number 7 spot, we have Kathy Griffin. In light of the very famous Will Smith slap on Chris Rock at the Oscars in 2022, we saw many celebrities finally comment on the slow death of comedy. One of whom was Kathy Griffin, a very known controversial comedian. She took to Twitter to defend Chris Rock and all comedians by saying, "Let me tell you something. It's a very bad practice to walk up on stage and physically assault a comedian. Now we all have to worry about who wants to be the next Will Smith in comedy clubs and theaters. People heavily model what they see on TV and in movies, not to mention children who haven't fully formed their perspective on the world yet, and imagine them seeing a beloved person like Will Smith go up on the stage and assault Chris Rock for a joke he made. Hopefully that's the last time that happens, but I bet comedians everywhere have security guards on standby now after that." In our number 6 spot, we have Billy Eichner. Known for being the creator of Funny or Die's Billy on the Street, Billy Eichner is a beloved comic and actor in America. I'm personally a big fan, so I was very interested to read his 2 cents on the whole Twitter protest to cancel Joe Rogan. Joining in among many celebs, Billy was actually a little more cryptic than you would think. He said, "A comedian's job is to stop New Yorkers on the street and ask them if they have any thoughts about Michelle Pfeiffer." End of discussion. Which could be taken 2 ways. He could be saying that all Joe needs is to ask questions and make jokes. Or He could be saying, come on guys, he's just doing his job. It's a comedian's job to be doing what Joe is doing. Would love to know your thoughts and how you interpreted this in the comment section below. However, Billy does seem to know where to draw the line. He chimed in on the Twitter fight against comedian Dave Chappelle's Netflix special and tweeted, sending my love and full support to all trans employees and their allies participating in the Netflix walkout today. In our number 5 spot today, we have Dan Levy. Known for his popular comedy show Schitt's Creek, or by us millennials as the host of The Hills After Show. Memories. I wonder if Lauren Conrad is a fan of Schitt's Creek. Dan Levy has been no stranger to vocalizing his opinions on injustices in the world. After the very controversial Netflix special by comedian Dave Chappelle, Dan Levy took to Instagram to join in on the critiques and vocalize his opinion. He said he stands with every employee at Netflix using their voice to ensure a safe and supportive work environment. He also said there isn't a debate around the harmfulness of transphobia. In our number 4 spot, we have Jameela Jamil, another celeb that I love. If you haven't seen The Good Place, then you haven't lived. She is truly so funny and just a downright icon, along with literally everybody in that cast, so go watch it now. After the release of Dave Chappelle's Netflix special, Jameela attended a rally in California and supposedly took part in a video for the Netflix CEO discussing the repercussions from allowing Dave Chappelle's show to be shared. She also took to Twitter and wrote, I really wish I hadn't seen Chappelle's closing show. I hope he stays away for a long time, maybe until this legit obsession with undermining trans people goes away. Such a smart man, so willfully misinformed and committed to show us what an out-of-touch bellend he's becoming. In our number 3 spot, we have Tim Allen, arguably one of the best Christmas movie actors from the 90s, and I'm obviously including Arnold Schwarzenegger from Jingle All the Way. Anyone? Okay, of course, Macaulay Culkin as well. Yes, him too. The Santa Claus and Toy Story actor went on the TV show The View and chatted to the ladies of the show about political correctness in comedy today. He took a stand for all comedians in chatting about how we now can't even speak about books written by some of the comedians he grew up with and whom he recognized as greats. He went on to say that when he's doing stand-up in big arenas, he now has to explain his intent behind his words, which he hates because this stems from a very 1984 thought police type place, which arguably is quite true. In our number 2 spot today, we have Wanda Sykes. Gosh, I cannot say this enough, but I love Wanda Sykes. She is truly an icon, and I cannot tell you a movie of hers that I didn't love, and yeah, she's just great. When asked about comedian Kevin Hart's controversial tweets that had him step down from hosting the Oscars, Wanda spoke out and said this, quote, to me, that's the one thing I will say to a comic. Hey man, that's wrong. You can't say that. Because I personally know kids who have been kicked out of their homes because that is who they are. And also, the joke just isn't funny. She also was quite vocal about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock over a joke at the Oscars in 2022. She told her friend Ellen DeGeneres that, quote, it was sickening. I physically felt ill and I'm still traumatized about it. For him, referring to Will, to enjoy the rest of the show and accept his award, I was like, how gross is this? This is just the wrong message. Agreed, Wanda. In our number 1 spot, we have Jim Carrey. I think comedians everywhere were super happy to see iconic comedian Jim Carrey come forth and be so candid about his thoughts on the Will Smith slap. Jim went on CBS Mornings and spoke to Gayle King and was quoted as saying, I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse, and it just really felt like this is a really clear indication that we aren't the cool club anymore. When asked whether Chris should have pressed charges, Jim said that he just doesn't want the hassle, and quote, I would have announced this morning that I was suing Will for $200 million. That's all the time I have for you today, everyone. I'm Melissa Mulati, and see you next time. Good day.